Are you prepared to retire confidently? From time to time, we'll often come across articles that catch our attention that we like to discuss on our show here because it can contain some information that might give you some strategies, some tips, some tactics that can help you retire more confidently. And this article that jumped out to us this week is from Barron's. It's actually from December. It's titled, "Retirees Aren't Spending Enough of Their Nest Eggs, and Here's Why," by Neil Templin. And this is an idea that sometimes retirees cannot feel comfortable enough, not confident enough to actually spend the way they want to spend in retirement. And Allison, you got an example that you picked out there for us?
Yes, and I know we are deep into spring here. Spring has sprung, but in my household, we are still quoting Christmas Vacation quite a bit. So this reminded me of Aunt Bethany, who wraps up her cat and her Jell-O mold as Christmas presents. And Clark makes the excuse for her that, Aunt Bethany, she's very old. She doesn't have a lot of money. So she just wraps up things around her house and gives them as presents. And obviously we don't know anything about Aunt Bethany's financial situation, but we do see times where retirees don't spend what they potentially could in their golden years. So we want to help you become a more confident retiree. Give yourself that permission to spend if your financial plan is in good order.
That's right. We have 6 of those topics. But before we jump into that, if this is your first time watching us, I'm Chad Smith. This is Allison Berger, and we are financial advisors at Financial Symmetry in Raleigh. And we work with retirees and help people through this transition, hundreds of families through the years. And before we jump in, actually, there's a free resource we're happy to give you if you want to download below. It's our pre-retirement checklist where we go into 8 different categories and list out a lot of ideas and tips that you'll need to think through if you want to retire confidently. So, Allison, let's jump into our 6 that we picked out today that we've noticed in the work that we've done. And that first one is to develop a plan and revisit it regularly.
Yes, first and foremost, this is absolutely important. Help you define your savings and your spending targets. How much are you going to need into retirement? Determine the best accounts for you to be saving in. And then as you make that transition to retirement, what are the best accounts to be spending from? Might also identify some opportunities like contributing to a HSA or maybe mega backdoor Roth 401k, backdoor Roth IRAs, things like that we can help you identify.
We have other shows on those topics. We'll link in the show notes below. It's interesting. The article pointed out that often spending savings can be harder than building that savings. You wouldn't think that would be the case, but part of that is the break that happens between receiving a paycheck and moving into retirement and not understanding which accounts to pull from. So that second one we have is creating that paycheck experience.
That's right. Yeah. So creating a more similar experience to when you were working and you received that regular monthly or twice a month deposit into your bank account. So we want to recreate that experience in retirement because what we do find is that retirees who have fixed income sources, for example, a pension or Social Security, the more that makes up of their retirement income stream, the more likely they are to be able to spend that money in retirement.
Yes. And of course, this is one of the big pieces of that 3-legged stool that people used to talk about, right? The next one here is Social Security. And if you can, we know some people can't, but if you can delay Social Security, that can really go a long way.
Exactly. So this makes a big difference, and that is an increasing paycheck experience. So Social Security does have that cost of living adjustment. Inflation is a major concern for retirees. So the longer you can delay your Social Security, the higher that benefit will be, and the higher benefit that will be exposed to that cost of living adjustment when inflation increases so that you maintain and build purchasing power throughout your retirement years.
Our next one is one that we discuss a lot around a mortgage and wanting to pay it off, right? But that's not always your best option. And that's why we call this one reframing your mindset on debt paydown.
That's absolutely right. So in retirement, it can actually improve your financial situation, enhance your purchasing power, and increase your retirement savings and spending strategy if you keep that mortgage longer term, especially particularly with the low interest rate environment that we have today. So many times looking at that in the context of your financial plan, looking at 2 different scenarios, what does it look like if I pay off the mortgage versus if I don't pay off the mortgage, can help you identify which is going to be better for your personal situation and then move forward with that.
And then you jump into that, one of the more complex planning ideas behind retirement, and it's around tax planning and the accounts that you have there and which accounts you should withdraw from first, because there's a lot of different ways you can get money. A lot of people have saved their 401k through the years, and that money is yet to be taxed, but you got to marry that with whatever you have in other accounts and tax-free accounts and your brokerage account, right? Because those are all taxed differently. And how is that going to work in each year's time frame after your paycheck has stopped? There's a lot of opportunities there. We have a slide that demonstrates some of that at the different ages that you could start to think through ways this can benefit you. But one of those things you want to think through and maybe pair with delaying your Social Security.
Yes, absolutely. You might have an opportunity to fill up those low tax brackets. For example, pay lower tax rates in your early retirement years than you were during your working years. And then you might be, once you start your full Social Security benefit and required minimum distributions at age 72. So there's a good window there where you really want to consider what tax savings might be available to you, because again, the money that you save in taxes is more money that you could potentially spend, donate, or leave for your heirs at the end of your life.
And then our last one here is one that you think of after the fact many times, or right near the end, is estate planning considerations. But it is important because you want to have some say potentially in what happens after you're gone.
Yes. And I think what we saw in some of the comments on the Barron's article that we mentioned at the beginning was, well, why would advisors care if I'm going to spend what I'm going to spend? And if I continue accumulating, what difference does it make? And the point being that someone is going to spend it. If it's not you, it will be someone else. Either it will be a large portion might go to taxes, in which case the government would spend it, or your heirs will be spending it, or the charitable institutions that you're leaving your wealth to. And what we see in practice is there's a widely quoted statistic that 70% of wealth transfers fail and the money's gone by the end of the second generation, 90% by the end of the third generation. So even with the best intentions for your family, it doesn't always go according to plan. So we really want to make sure you think through those estate planning strategies and not just the documents. We want to think through really preparing your children, your heirs, thinking through what you want those funds to do when you're gone, and how do you best prepare the people who will be the stewards of that wealth going forward.
We hope these 6 tips can help you retire more confidently. We have many other shows and topics on our website at financialsymmetry.com, or you can watch many of the other videos here on our YouTube channel, and then check us out again in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining us.